Hello, welcome to the second episode in the Slow Fashion series. Today, we are going to talk about Compass of Purpose. My name is Kavya, and I work with a brand called the House of Akshar. We are the pioneers of 360-degree sustainable clothing in India. We have to agree that fashion goes fast. 50 years ago, women had only two dresses. Today, this statement does not hold true. There are 52 seasons in fashion, one season for each week of the year. The reality is that you go shopping one week and the following week you're already out of date. There will be something new in the shops again. From the consumer's perspective, we can easily have a wardrobe full of clothes and still feel like we have nothing to wear. But have we ever thought about the real impact of the fashion industry? Who produces them and how? And how connected are we really to the humans in regards to clothing? Multinational companies arrive in countries such as India, China, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or Cambodia, where the workforce is already very cheap. Then they ask local businesses and factories to get even cheaper production so they can offer more competitive prices. Here is an example. Say brand X sells their t-shirts for $5, but brand Y sells them for $4. So brand X will come back and say, hey, brand Y is selling them for $4. We need to make them cheaper. The business owners in underdeveloped or developing countries are always finding themselves in the situation of squeezing their prices. If the country doesn't accept these terms, they are risking the industry to leave and be poorer. These countries want the businesses so badly that they find themselves having no other option. Remember, there will always be a venture that claims they can do what you do bigger, better, faster, and even cheaper. Clothing production has helped spur growth in developing economies, no doubt, but a closer look reveals a number of social challenges. For instance, 40 million people are making our clothes today. 80% of the apparel is made by young women between the ages of 18 and 24. Garment workers, primarily women in Bangladesh, make about $96 per month. That is just over $3 a day. The government's wage board suggested that the garment workers need 3.5 times the amount in order to live a decent life with basic facilities. A 2018 US Department of Labor report found evidence of forced and child labor in the fashion industries of Argentina, Bangladesh, Brazil, China, India, Indonesia, Philippines, Turkey, Vietnam, and other countries. The fast fashion impact is huge. Around 40 million people are working at the garment factory, from which 4 million people are located in Bangladesh alone. Here, more than 5,000 factories produce for Western brands. Local businesses have to cut corners in management and safety to reach the request threshold, which has led to disasters such as the one that happened in 2013 in Rana Plaza. The collapse of Rana Plaza brought worldwide attention to debt-trapped workplaces within the garment industry. Rana Plaza, the collapsed eight-story commercial building located in Dhaka's outskirts, Sawar, is a painful symbol of the grave tragedy encountered by garment workers. On 24th April 2013, the Rana Plaza building came crashing down, killing 1,134 people and leaving thousands more injured. People all across the world looked on in shock and horror as media reports poured in, revealing the true extent of human toll. There were harrowing stories of survival, of people who had no choice but to amputate their own limbs in order to be freed from the rubble and survive. No amount of money can make up for the loss of a loved one or the resulting physical and emotional scars inflicted on those who survived such a tragedy. There have been a few more incidents, like the Ali Enterprises with 289 dead, or the Tarzim fashion factory where 112 more people died. It seems that working under these conditions has become something accepted and common in these countries. As COVID-19 sweeps across the world, labor organizers and activists have shared that fashion brands are mass canceling orders already produced or in production without considering the devastating impact of unpaid wages to the women on the factory floor. These are the same women who have kept them profitable for years. In Bangladesh, some days ago marked the 7-year anniversary of Rana Plaza, the deadliest industry disaster of our time. At that time, industry sprung into action and building safety improvements were made. Never again was the refrain in the fashion brands. Yet, here we are 7 years later, with garment makers once again left hungry and insecure as Walmart, Gap, Primark, and others refuse to pay for orders already produced or in production. The parallels created by COVID-19 have been eerie. Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association has appealed to the international buyers, saying with $3 billion worth of orders cancelled or paused, garment makers will literally be on the street, resulting in massive social unrest. A journalist for a local television channel stated how the Rana Plaza disaster could have been averted if not for production pressures to make clothing cheaply and quickly. When asked why the Bangladeshis appear to pay so little mind to the sight of the deadliest structural failure in history, he answered, brands have invested a lot to make the label an image of safety. If there's a lot of focus on Rana Plaza, it's not good for business. Yet, as soon as the COVID-19 pandemic hit, many of the same brands that were implicated in the Rana Plaza collapse, including Primark and Walmart, cancelled orders produced and already in production, causing severe liquidity crunch for factories that are in turn unable to pay the makers of our clothes. Women have been protesting on the streets of Dhaka without an ability to safely distance. Many are getting reduced pay, while others have not been paid at all. These are women without savings, access to health care or food security. Even 7 years after the Rana Plaza, garment makers still live in substandard conditions and make poverty wages. The coronavirus pandemic has taught us that when businesses constrict for brands and retailers, it becomes a question of life or death for the millions of women who make our clothes. The pandemic has hit us all hard. As we veer towards economic collapse, worry about our health, jobs, and savings, this is also a time for a reset when it comes to buying cheap and disposable clothes that don't tell the full story of the alarming cost on human lives and our planet. The recent study conducted by Unilever found that a third of today's consumers choose to buy from brands that exercise positive environmental or social principles. It's no longer enough for companies to share the same old cliches about why their product is superior. Instead, we need to create a connection with our audience, give them something to hold on to that goes beyond price points and packaging. Increasingly, today's consumers are more inclined to look beyond the label and ask the questions: what makes a fashion brand ethical? The digital age has made it incredibly easy for consumers to find out whether a brand possesses these moral credentials or not. All it takes is a quick Google search. It is crucial for a brand to prove that they are conscious, transparent, and sustainable. As millennial shopping habits are changing, even if they have very little disposable income, they are very conscious of what they spend it on. It is not only the look or the label that they care about, but the whole story. It makes them feel good that it is something responsible and sustainable, which is huge in their minds. People really are asking, am I really sure where my t-shirt has come from? Has someone created sufferingly? The purpose of the brand is why behind our existence. With your values, it defines the soul of your organization and engages your audience emotionally through a series of shared beliefs, solved problems, and inherent meaning. Our philosophy is simple and straightforward, albeit not entirely altruistic. We do want to live longer, but on a greener planet. Now is the time to strengthen our social fabric. Companies must lobby to increase social protections for the less privileged, a living wage, healthcare, and other forms of insurance that probably the European citizens take for granted, to increase our societal resilience. Writing checks each time a crisis hits is not that great of an idea. In the real world, it's not always clear what's right or wrong. It's often subjective. Good people can take bad actions. Most decisions are made blind to the ethics of the situation. We are so focused on the business task and meeting our business goals that we don't see the ethical big picture, and our ability to behave ethically is largely impaired. As everyday shoppers, we have the power during this moment of reset to demand better labor and environmental protections. We have the power to vote in elections, but also to vote with our voices and our money for the brands that did not turn their backs on the makers. Let us not forget the world's most vulnerable people during this crisis. Rapid consumption of apparel and the need to deliver on short fashion cycles stresses production resources, often resulting in supply chain that puts profit ahead of human welfare. Workers should be rewarded instead of exploited. Without human capital or cheap labor, the fashion industry would be far off generating such large profits. This is food for thought.